You've counted every calorie, tried every diet, spent hours in the gym, and still something's missing. You want more than just weight loss. You want your energy back. You want your confidence restored. You want a way of living that doesn't feel like punishment. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism, where we cut through the noise, ditch the fads, and give you a real plan to become the healthiest, strongest version of you. Hosted by our team of expert coaches with proven strategies, science-based tips, and real-life encouragement, not just to help you lose fat, but actually create that lifestyle that you love. You've tried everything. Now, let's try what actually works. This is your turning point. Let's go. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to Master Your Metabolism. I am here today with Coach Amanda, our lovely mindset coach. And I thought it would be a great time to be able to talk about some of the aspects of emotional eating and why people do things the way that they do, why they tend to overeat, why they have this connection and seem to be doing great. And then all of a sudden they fall off track. So, my dear love, I know that you have helped so many of our clients that are struggling with this, that are having some issues with those types of behaviors and wondering how they can change them and get into a better place when they have something that they're working on.
Yeah, I think that emotional eating is probably the biggest component to address in order for you to be successful on any sort of weight loss, transformation, health journey, because every single person on this planet uses food for a means other than just to nourish their bodies. And that's why certain foods are harder for us, certain times of year are harder for us. A lot of the reasons go pretty deep, and they do tend to kind of first appear in childhood. And I know as soon as a therapist says childhood, everybody's running away from me, but just hear me out on this one. You'll find that if you start thinking about it from a critical analysis standpoint and reflecting on those experiences from when you were younger, and this doesn't have to be just really young childhood. This could be adolescence. This could be something that's developmental and goes across the lifespan. But one of the biggest reasons people eat foods that are not necessarily nourishing for them is for comfort. And that is something that extends through all cultures. All cultures eat food for comfort and use food for celebration. So those are two things that are inherently hard for people when they start losing weight. Because if you've always gotten your comfort from one source and now you've pulled that source away, you're uncomfortable. And when you're uncomfortable, you tend to make more reactive choices to soothe yourself as a self soothing mechanism. So I know personally for me, it's sweets and desserts. I can tell you right now that I grew up in a house where we did not have many sweets and desserts. The only place that I got to eat special chocolate cakes and brownies, that was my grandparents' house. And memories of my grandparents' house, to me, are some of the best memories of my entire childhood. So there's an association there. Those cakes and brownies remind me of sitting in the kitchen with my grandma and grandpa playing cards. So you may not be thinking about the association inherently every time you go for that food, but you are more likely to go for that food if there is a connection there. So for comfort, comfort is the number one reason why people pick unhealthy choices, right? It feels good. It tastes good. The taste reminds you of something. Most people don't have a hard time getting in their grilled chicken and asparagus, right? Well, unless you're Brooke. But the thing with that is not only do you not have a positive emotional memory of grilled chicken and asparagus as a child, you probably have a negative emotional memory of it. Being forced to eat those veggies, not being able to leave the table until you're done, until you finish all of your green food, that stuff lives inside of us and comes out when we're not looking. So having the awareness around that is really helpful when you're trying to make a change. Because how can you stay away from the things that trigger you if you don't know what triggers you?
Yeah. It's a great point because you think about it, when we're working with clients and they have these behaviors, they have these changes. I see it a lot when, again, obviously with stressful situations and things like that, they're going to go for those foods. But how do you help clients A, recognize the trigger, A, replace the behavior?
So it could be a variety of different things. One client that I'm thinking of in particular had something that actually has a name, an issue with food scarcity. When she was little, food was not abundant for her. uh, Particularly high value foods, cookies, chips, sodas, things like that. When you grow up in an environment when something is scarce, the instinct behaviorally is to hoard it. So we were finding that she was really struggling with getting rid of certain foods. Over time, it even developed into, what do I do with these leftovers? I went to a restaurant and I ate half of the cheeseburger, which was great, but I can't throw it away. I have to eat the rest. So, by identifying the food scarcity as something that took place in her childhood, we've been able to use that information to help her game plan. So, in terms of meal planning, it's very important for her that we meal plan to have enough, because that feeling of scarcity is something that feels threatening. Let me think of another example. I'm trying to think of something that kind of resonates with everybody in terms of maybe like snacking and food availability. If food is always available to you, you're going to consume it. So, one of the number one tricks I work with some of my overeaters around is identifying the foods first that are your trigger foods. Because again, chicken and asparagus is not going to make you fall off your plan, right? But if you keep peanut butter cups in your house and they're right there in the pantry, they're easy for you to get to. Behaviorally, you're going to need a lot more willpower to stay away from those, especially because when you were younger, peanut butter cups were your favorite. You used to go out with your dad to get ice cream and you'd get peanut butter cups on your ice cream. It could be anything, right? But what if we took those peanut butter cups and put them in a Tupperware that's harder to open on the top shelf? They're still there. I didn't tell you you can never eat them again, because that doesn't work either, always. But we created a barrier, we created a roadblock. And people say, well, I don't want to live that way. You're not meant to live that way forever. If you keep the peanut butter cups on the top shelf long enough, it won't be a problem anymore. Then you can bring them down. And guess what? If it triggers you again, they go back to the top shelf. So it's really about figuring out what are your weak spots so that we can identify them. I think I've used this before, that, you have a house that goes through a storm. You don't know where the leaks are going to be until the storm shows up. So that first beginning stage, when things are hard, instead of not telling your coach you did them or not tracking them, you say, like, my clients will come to me, Amanda, I had a really hard time with this week. What can we do?
Yep.
Okay, let's game plan for that.
Yep. Yep. I think that's
So,
everything, right? Everything that you do in life. And I tell people it's down to even the foods, right? If you're just flying by the seat of your pants all day and just like, okay, I ate something, let me plug it in. I ate something, let me plug it in. Whereas the difference between my clients that are okay, especially those that are new, like by this time, this many years in, I know how many carbs, I know how much protein, I know because I've done it for so long. But my newbies, they try and just fly by the seat of their pants. You are not going to be able to be accurate, number one. You're not going to be able to stay on plan. You're going to wind up at the end of the day with a bunch of fat, and you're going to ask me, what should I do? I have 60 grams of oil left, of fats left. And I'm going to tell you to drink oil. Like that would be the plan. And maybe next time we figure it out, but it's definitely understanding that if you want to be successful in anything, you're going to have to kind of figure out a way, like you said, coming up with understanding this is my weakness. So how can I go about it? I have to put those cups in a container on the top shelf and I hide them in the closet. They're here. Calvin knows, but he has to take that thought and say, okay, I'm going to take a minute. Maybe I don't need them right now. Maybe I can have one later. He will put it into his plan. And that's how it is. It's really just that extra step that stops you so you don't go quick into that like emotional reactive state.
That's exactly what it is, and I call them speed bumps, right? Because without a speed bump, you're going down a back road at 65 miles an hour because there's nothing on that road. With 2 or 3 speed bumps, most you can go over those is like 25, maybe 30 if you wanna fly, but you have to slow down, and by slowing down, you have to think. So by instead of going to the emotional instinct, which is I'm sad I want food. I'm sad I want a cookie. We're saying I'm sad I want a cookie, but the cookies are on the top shelf. How badly do I want that cookie?
Mm.
And it gives you a split second. Is it going to work every time? No. Are there times with my own self recently, after 10 years of doing this, where I said, do I really want to have that Rice Krispie treat? No. Fuck it. Yeah. And I do.
Yep.
And then I have to deal with the consequence, whatever that consequence is. But at least it gave me a chance. If you don't stop to think about it, there's no chance you're going to make the right decision because you're making the emotional decision, not the rational decision. And I think people eat in response to emotions and they have emotions and then eat. So it's a very cyclical relationship. So most people think like you eat when you're sad. Right? Yeah, people do eat when they're sad. They also eat when they're happy. That's usually a celebration of some sort. They eat for comfort when they need to be comforted. They eat when they're stressed. They eat for social reasons. They eat with others. They eat by themselves alone in the dark. There's lots of reasons why we choose to eat for our emotions. It's usually to self soothe. So it's very common. I mean, you see every period commercial that's ever existed on TV. The girl is sitting in her pajamas with a thing of Ben and Jerry's crying at a romantic comedy. It's not that off base, but there's a reason for that, right? So she's trying to cope with not feeling well physically and emotionally with some Ben and Jerry's. It may help her temporarily, but is it going to solve any of her problems in the long term? So that's the other piece with emotional eating. Is this going to fix my emotional issue temporarily or in the long term? And that can help you determine what's healthy and what isn't as well.
And I think, it's the point also of what you're saying is that the point of this is not that you can't have certain foods. It's not that you can't have the Reese's cup. It's not that you can't have this. It's when you choose it in a time that is triggered from something other than, you know what? I would really like this right now. Just for no reason. I feel good. Everything's okay. Like, I just want to go have it. There's a difference between that and saying, okay, this is going on in my life, or I don't feel good, or this just happened to me at work, or I'm having these issues with my relationship. And that's where you start going for things. And that's where I feel like it's that part of it that people have a really hard time moving through. And that's where they need that support.
Because they're usually unsupported, trying to solve a food problem by saying, I'm not going to eat it, without acknowledging why you're not going to eat it and why you want to eat it. You need to know both of those pieces of information in order to make a secure decision. But for most of us, it's just like, I had a hard day. I'm going to go through the drive through. I used to go through the McDonald's drive through twice a day. Okay. Before my shift, because I work nights, before my shift, I would go and get a double quarter pounder with cheese meal. After my shift, I would get a milkshake and a McChicken. And everyone who knows me is listening to this, like, what? Why did I do that? I had a very stressful job at the time. I was working mobile crisis, and that job required me to push all of my stuff down while I was at work. So when I was done, I went to McDonald's and I smoked a cigarette. Why am I doing these things? Because I'm responding to the stressful environment. Number one thing I hear from clients, I can't give up my after or my evening glass of wine. Wine is an interesting one, but no different than food because people will be like, oh, there's like a mind altering effect of wine because of the alcohol. It's no different than a cheeseburger if you're using it the same way. And people think that one is preferable over the other, or they have to justify one or the other. But at the end of the day, why am I making this choice? I'm having a glass of wine right now because I had a crazy day and I need to relax.
Yep.
Is a glass of wine going to harm my progress in my journey? Most people, the answer is going to be yes, if you're on some sort of health journey, right? Not only is it a caloric issue, it's a metabolic issue. What else can I do to relax myself that does not include this glass of wine? Those steps are a lot more work for people cognitively than opening a bottle of wine and drinking it, right? Because it requires you to think about it. And that's why people are afraid to talk to me in the first place, is because I make you think about things you don't want to think about. Because if you're drinking that glass of wine because your life is so stressful and your marriage is this and your kids are this and your job is this, and you don't even want to acknowledge it, you don't want to even deal with it, you just want it gone. But after you drink that glass of wine, is it gone?
Still there.
Which is why we do it every night.
Yep.
So, one of the most important things I tell people is this is behaviorism, okay? If you're going to positively reinforce something with a substance, they're now fused together. So, I'm stressed and anxious, I'm going to eat a piece of cake. The piece of cake makes me feel better. I'm no longer stressed and anxious.
Keep doing
So,
that.
the next time, what's going to happen? I'm stressed and anxious, cake. Now do that for 45 years and then try to undo it and tell me how easy that is.
Yep. Yep. So what would be your next step and your next suggestion? Because for me, like, and again, you'll probably go through this, but for me, it was like I was that Calvin and I used to sit and have a glass of wine every night because it was chaos with three boys, right? And we did do that until my body decided, absolutely not, we're done. And it was that negative reinforcement, you could say, and that negative feedback that I got from the wine eventually made me stop because it wasn't worth what was going on in my body to do it. And it's crazy when I see people that are like, they keep doing it and doing it until it's just gone too far. They have some negative reaction or something happens. And I had to find a replacement behavior, right? I had to find something else to put in place because that was no longer an option.
That is behavioral change is very hard to implement. It's why I've studied it for all these years and I'm really passionate about what I do because forcing yourself to make a significant behavioral change alone is nearly impossible. When people say, "Oh, you just don't have the willpower." You're not born with a certain amount of willpower, okay? You just don't have the tools. So I'm here to give you the tools, and I'm gonna teach you how to make this process easier over time. So that first night that you don't drink is gonna be really uncomfortable. Even if I give you a replacement behavior, let's say I give you some adaptogens. Let's say you decide that you want to go to a spa or get a massage, something that causes that same relaxation. Initially, the replacement behavior will never equal the original behavior. That has to be accepted. So we're giving up the original behavior for a reason. It's not good for my health. I'm gaining weight, whatever the issue is. That reason has to be important enough to say, I don't want to do this anymore. And then we take a replacement behavior and it gives you the illusion that you have gotten 90% of the benefits of what you once had in that glass of wine. You accept that 90% is better than if you went cold turkey and you have absolutely nothing. And you repeat. The repeat is the most important thing. If I have you do a replacement behavior and you do it once and it doesn't work, no shit does not work that way. But if you do it enough, there's all this stuff out there that says, like, if it takes 2 weeks to build a habit, blah, blah, blah. I think it's very individual. I think it depends on the person. It depends on the assistance that they're getting in the support that they're getting to be able to do that. But you have to give any change a significant amount of time. I personally don't believe you're going to see much change in your desires until probably about a month, 6 weeks of doing it every day. But you will notice that over time, you don't really care so much about the wine. You're introducing something new that's almost as good as something old, but without the dangerous side effect. But if there isn't that desire to change the original behavior, it won't work. You have to want to change. Nobody can want to change for you.
Yep. Yep. And some people I feel like they come to us and they're like, I really want to change. I really want to do it. But they're not really that they're not aware. But I don't think people realize when they're trying to make a significant change. I look at it like people all the time. Like when I competed, I want to I want to do that. Girl, you don't know what type of
Yes.
what it took for me to get there. Like all those times that these people are going out to dinner, I'm eating my food ahead of time. All of the times that I didn't feel like going to the gym, I went to the gym. The time that I didn't feel like doing my walks, I do my walks. Like it was a commitment, a change, and it's a lot. So it's also that part of it that I think A, on one hand, people get afraid because they know how much work it's going to be, or B, they have unrealistic expectations, think that they could just like, well, I'll be fine, I'll change, and it'll be easy.
I think, first of all, no change is easy. Nothing in life is easy. I can hear my father saying that in my ear as a child, and I'd be like, you don't understand. No, he understood. Then he's probably watching this laughing right now. But when it comes to behavioral change, people will often say what they want from a change, what they're going to gain from that change, without really putting the thought into what do I have to give up to get there? And I know my own weight loss journey, starting at 250 pounds all the way to today, 10 years, I've had to give up a lot of things. I've given up things that are valuable to me, like foods and alcohol. I've given up social situations, friends. I was a big partier. I don't fit in that group anymore because I don't eat any of that. I'm not going to put it in my body. You're going to lose things in order to gain something bigger. And in order to do that, you have to have a little bit of faith because you're being asked to do something without seeing that
So,
it's going to come true.
yep, yep. But it's also the fact that when you started, I don't think that you realized when you started what where we were gonna be today, right? And you started saying, "Okay, I'll give this up," but I think that's where it also starts, is it has to be something like, "Let me give a little bit, let me get reinforced for it. Let me get a little bit more and get reinforced for it," because that's something else also that people see it and they're like, "Oh my gosh, I could never do that." You can, but you're not gonna start from here
Baby
and go
steps.
here. It has to be those little tiny changes, those little and when you say, "Look at that. I said I was gonna do it, I did it." This
Yeah.
is really cool. Like, now I actually feel better. Awesome. Now I'm gonna do a little bit more. And I think it's that part of it also of having the guidance and the support of knowing the steps you need to take and how big or how small. Some people, I've had some clients that are like, I just need to go cold turkey. I just need to do this. But many times they wind up falling backwards. Or the clients that are like, I just want to do like, I don't know that I can do any of this. Let me just start by doing like the babyest, tiniest little thing. But it's those clients that we start with the babyest, tiniest little thing, they're successful, and then they say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't think I could do it, and I did it. Cool. Hey, girl, let's try something else." We stacked on top of it, and now this same girl is dropping weight. She's at eating all the food. She now is in a bikini. Now she's running around with her little girl, and that was her whole purpose. She wanted to improve her health for her daughter, and that was the reason she started. And now it's like all of the things that are happening but it's been a culmination of those little baby steps that has gotten her to where she is today.
People see me now. And obviously, unless I tell you or you've looked at my Instagram, there's no way you would know that I was 100 pounds heavier. But they look at what I do now, and I'm in the gym 5 days a week, and I do my cardio, and I'm lifting, and it's all these complicated lifts or lifts that women don't do. I'm benching, I'm doing things like that. You look at my food, my macros are to the gram every single day. It never varies, it never changes. Even if I go out to a restaurant, I'm still eating exactly what I'm supposed to be eating. If you go back 10 years, when I started this process, 100 pounds heavier, I literally said, all I'm going to do is cut out fried food and I need to walk for 30 minutes, whatever pace, 3 times a week. And that's what I did for a couple months until I got my bearings. Fried food wasn't scary anymore. So then I was like, well, maybe I'm going to tackle calories. Again, I didn't have Calvin and Brooke at the time, who would have led me to the macros first, but my goal was to lose 50 pounds. I lost 100 pounds. I've kept it off for 8 years. And I've done that by stacking wins, little wins constantly. Even when I get knocked down a couple pegs, little wins, little wins. Right now, I'm injured and I can't lift heavy and it makes me miserable, but I am still in the gym doing 50, 30 pounds of weight because it's what I need to do to keep something that I value now. This is part of me now, but it wasn't always part of me. I could have never imagined this is where it would have gone. But those little behavioral changes, as you get confident that, oh, I can do that. I can eat protein in every meal. Then you have a coach who says, awesome, let's go here next. And if you trust and you put some faith in it, 10 years later, you're a completely different person. But most people don't want to wait 10 years. You don't necessarily have to, but it's going to take more than time than 10 minutes. I will definitely guarantee you that.
Even 10 weeks. You see all these challenges all the time, and the 30 pounds in 30 days and all that. That's all great, well, and good. But when you are looking to change your life and you are looking to become a completely different person, it does take complete different effort, right? And depending on what type of change you want to make. Like, I remember going to the gym with you and walking into Crunch, holding your hand from the baby gym. And now you're lifting more than I am. And when you said that little comment about like 30 pounds, like to most people, that's a lot of weight to do for 30 reps. And also keeping in mind, it's all perspective. It's all kind of seeing where you are in your journey. I have someone starting now that she could not. I kept trying to go to the gym, kept trying to go to the gym. She kept failing. She kept failing and felt like a failure. So I said, let's start with something even less. Let's just start with planks in your house before you get out of bed. I mean, once you get out of bed or before you're getting into bed at night, like, I just want you to do planks as long as you can. Let's just do 3 of them. And the girl, she did it. And then she kept sending me messages of, oh my gosh, I was up to a minute. Oh my gosh, I did this. And it was those wins that she was like, wow, I really can do this. And it was that little spark. It was like I could see it. That little spark just revved her up. Now she knew something she never thought was possible that she could ever do. That little teeny tiny step now catapulted her. Now she has faith. Now she's doing more. And it's now she's moving faster. So it's all of those little things that people don't realize. It doesn't have to be a massive change at first. It can be those little baby steps. And before you know it, you're going to be in that place in your body 10 years later. So whether you want to be 10 years later doing nothing or 10 years later taking those little baby steps, what you are going to feel like and where your health will be in those 10 years, stacking those habits will 100% that person that you are 10 years from now will say, thank goodness that you did those things. Thank goodness that you made those small changes because now we're in a better place. I tell people I hate working out. I never enjoyed working out. I started when I was in my 40s because my hormones demanded that I had to. But it's gotten me to a point that I'm like, now I'm kind of enjoying it because I actually got stronger. Now it's like, thank goodness I'm here because now in the thick of menopause, I need to do this. I don't want to be that frail little old lady. I don't want to be that. So it's really thinking about why you're doing what you're doing, really connecting with, that aspect also. And like you said, the blind faith and taking those small steps because the difference in who you are, like Amanda, the person you are today and who you were a few years ago
Totally
when I met
different
you,
people.
completely different. And it was just, you started the momentum, but then it just kind of those little habits and those little tweaks and the things you learned and the things you done, that's what catapulted you to where you are.
And I think the thing about that, and I'm thinking back to the beginning when I was 250 pounds, I literally couldn't walk up a flight of stairs without using an inhaler. I mean, I was like the epitome of unhealthy. And I remember we had a treadmill in the basement and we lived in freezing Vermont at the time. And I would go down there after work and I would walk on that treadmill and I hated it. And I was terrible. Everything hurt and I was sweating, but I was going on like point one. Like it's just awful. And it was awful for a while.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think people either don't recognize or choose to overlook is that you're gonna be bad at it for a while. It's
Mhm.
gonna suck and you're gonna hate it for a
Mhm.
while. The gym, that's my time when I go to the gym now. I spend 2 hours on a Saturday, I'll spend 3 hours in the gym just because it's my happy place. You couldn't have paid me to go into a gym 10 years ago, but it had to be uncomfortable before it became part of me. And I think that's the thing is in the beginning, people are like, "I don't like this. This is uncomfortable." Good. That means it's working. That means you need to give it another month and then see where you're at. And is it gonna feel good and you're gonna love it and it's gonna be all rainbows? No, but if you have people supporting you and guiding you, and I think one of the number one things I do, I think Brooke does as well with clients, is I'm the baby step creator. I take your giant, overwhelming issue and I break it down into 30 different steps for you. And now it's manageable. Now you can chew it without choking. And I think that's the benefit of really putting work into a program with people who support you is this is a complicated behavioral task that we're asking of you, but it's doable as long as you're willing to sit in your discomfort for a little bit. But not forever. It's actually usually a lot shorter in the discomfort than you think. Like for me, looking back, it took me 2.5 years to lose the 100 pounds. It's been 10 years. The period where I was like massively uncomfortable lasted about 6 months. And then it got easier. Every day got a little bit easier. So you just have to know that this is not going to feel great tomorrow. Don't go into it deluding yourself, thinking, "Oh my God, I'm gonna be 30 pounds down in a week."
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way. And if you somehow magically figure out a way to make that work, it's not going to be sustainable. Because remember those cookies we were talking about that make you feel good and remind you of grandma? Well, they're still there. So we got to do something to actually sever that cord. So in the future, you don't have to deal with it anymore.
Absolutely. All right, Amanda. Amazing, amazing content as usual. So thank you everybody for joining us. And if you enjoyed this episode, we would really appreciate if you would drop us a review. Definitely follow us and subscribe for any new episodes coming up. And until next time, we'll see you guys later. Ciao.
Thanks for tuning in to Master Your Metabolism. If you found value in today's episode, it would mean the world to us if you'd hit subscribe and share this episode with someone who could use a little guidance in their health journey. Ready to take the next step? Head over to www.mastersfitnesscoaching.com and you can book a free call right from the site so we can chat about your goals and how we can help support you. Don't forget to join our Facebook group where we're sharing coaching tips, support, and tricks to help keep you on track and continue making progress. You don't have to do this alone. We're here to walk with you every step of the way. Until next time, stay consistent, stay kind to yourself, and keep mastering your metabolism. Let's do this together.